Mississippi, July, hot. We see a guy walk into a bar with some tough guys. It was the kind of day when even the cement sweated, even farts. And we can see here he's leaning over slightly, doing what we recently heard is known as the left cheek sneak. Should be the right cheek sneak in this case. He realizes there's someone next to him. It sure is hot. Frogs. Frogs? Frogs fart cool. See, my dad gets up here and reads all these poems on serious subjects, and now all anyone's going to remember is that frogs fart cool. Okay, as was mentioned, I spent some time in Austin, Texas. That's where I went to school. And I worked in a parking garage, just attending in the booth as a job throughout college. And there was a guy there that I relieved from his shift for mine. His name was Charlie Jones, and he passed away while I was living in Austin. This guy was very broken down looking guy. His glasses were always taped up, and he'd shave and miss huge spots on his face. He had a very obvious and serious drinking problem. He was basically one of those people that would go to work, and then when he got off work, he would drink until it was time to go to bed and go to work the next day. So I became somewhat friends with him. I was over at his house for a barbecue, and he lived in a house that was incredibly infested with roaches. I mean, incredibly so. Like, if you went into a room, this is a problem in Texas for everybody, whether you're rich or poor, you're dealing with roaches. So he was a guy that struck me as both very tragic and also very comic and very intelligent at the same time. He would read huge anthologies of the ancient poets. And he was very sharp and could hold his own, but he had some issues. So when he passed away, I felt like I should write a story about him because he seemed like the kind of guy that nobody would write a story about. Mr. Jones, this is from my book, 3 Stories. We're going to pick it up kind of in the middle. I'm going to read sort of the middle section of it. This is his friend Richard, who's another real person. And I'm just going to read what Richard's kind of describing Mr. Jones leading up to this page. Mr. Jones has just been evicted because of the way that he's living. So this is Richard, his friend, talking at first. They finally just condemned the place. They had to. A man just can't live like that. Mr. Charlie got his eviction notice this morning. I saw him this morning. He was yelling at the exterminators. You know, he thinks he's 18. He's probably drinking a brewski right now. A man just can't live like that. All those roaches? I mean, the exterminators went back for reinforcements. Can you imagine that? You know, Charlie's an alcoholic, yeah, but he's a working alcoholic. He always makes it to work. But every payday he asks me for a ride to the liquor store, it's true. And then this is Richard doing his impression of Mr. Jones. Richard, will you take me to the store? Well, you know Charlie, he don't want nothing. He didn't want to hurt nobody. Just go to work, come home, drink his brewskis, read, and listen to his language tapes. I say, Charlie, if something's bothering you, you gotta talk about it. Let it out, shit. Bless his heart. Nope, he just wants to read his books, always reading. Sometimes on the weekends, he'll stay up till the next day. Yep, that's Charlie, all right. You hear he's been going to church? Church, Charlie? Yeah, he's been going every week for 2 months now. Yeah, church, Charlie. And now we're on the page that you can see. Yeah, he's making his peace with the Lord. Yeah, he's changing. You know, the other day he was talking to himself. I say, Charlie, what's the matter? He say, psst, 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 psst. Yeah, he was talking to himself. And now we meet Charlie Jones, who is here. And he's talking to himself. The Roach Army stealthily plotted the downfall of their cruel king, that gigantic tyrant, that terrible Mr. Jones. And at this point, I am going to change the pages as I go. It is he who eats the sandwiches, they would say, while we wait for mere crumbs. It is he who kills us, whether by the great shoe or by the acid rain he keeps in a hissing can at his fingertips. Someday we will crush him. To the Roach Army, it must have seemed Jones' victory over them would be absolute and unending. In short, they were nasty, scuttering little bastards with seemingly no potential for organization. What could they launch that might topple him? Yet all that time they had been engaged in a creation. They were creating themselves in huge numbers. If they possessed no weapons of mass destruction, still they could breed, yes? Swell in population and spread the word about the king. Our day is coming. And then takes a sip of his brewski. What the hell was I talking about? Ah, yeah. And I'd have squashed their little rebellion if that diabolical Mr. Stop and Pop hadn't written my eviction notice. And how dare that vile man, that worm, that microbe in a worm's feces, that landlord to whom I have faithfully given 12 checks per year, how dare he judge? And how dare the exterminator, that purveyor of Holocaust for all things bug-like, how dare he judge? How dare you judge the life of Mr. Jones? And his glasses fall off and break. And he reacts. So he's on his way to the convenience store, the Quick Stop. And by the way, I just have to take credit for this right here. Nobody ever appreciates this joke. It's a kid here playing a video game, and it's kind of like a mercenary-looking soldier on the side, and the name of the video game is No Quarter. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, Ali. Time must be running out, for we all seek the quick fix. He's holding up his broken glasses. That rule of sales, that which is most addictive shall be made most available. And his sales being run up here. 1 pack generic cigarettes, 1 roll tape, 1 King Kong can of Splatz beer, another King Kong can. That will be $12.45, please. He comes out of the store. Glasses are fixed. He sees 2 kids here are tagging. Everybody knows what tagging is. So he's going to pontificate. This foul neighborhood has been vacated by the mainstream. Only left here are the smirking, jabbing, sinking, broken thousands, elbowing each other in and out of the convenience stores they so unthinkingly crave. All hands on deck, lost souls. The captain and his mates will steer the ship and count the booty, while you await leave on shore, only to be spent and left broke again to humbly swap deck for the next 2 weeks' pay. And the kid is reacting. Man, that white dude always be tripping. Ah, wasted youth. Tell me, if we must scribble over every available surface, and it appears we must, could we perchance attempt to do so in a legible fashion instead of these lines, dots, and squiggles you seem so fond of? Kid says, shut up, man. Everybody knows you're just a drunk, old white-ass fool. Clears his throat. Given divisions in folks, we will find unstable labels enable the blind. Eventually, you'll see but 2 factions. See not the shade of the skin, but the action. Just as some must work hard, others recline. As sure as I stand reciting these lines. There is the first sort, prone only to violence, loudmouth spouting and routing the silence. He eats the whole orange, leaves others the rind, sees himself as ahead, others behind. Cheating and lying, competing and vying, times are all tangled, but he is still tying. As this may be yours and that might be mine, as sure as the grapes shall be turned into wine, eventually you'll see in your time. Some are as sure as the sun and the shine. Who together take night, turn it to day. The other type then are they who display amazing grace, open ear, eye, and mind. Prone to solve problems, untying the twine. And sure as it is that life fades away, each will be judged in thine own judgment day. As some knots are wound tight and others unwind, as sure as it is that love is divine, and sweet as the song that comes from the rhyme, you will hear these last words or pay me no mind. As you will know yours, so too I know mine. Hear this, I am one of the peaceful kind. And the kids kind of react. The kid says, "Shut up, biatch!" "Marcus, you see this motherfucker?" Sort of hits him in the belly, his glasses fall off and snap. Kids run off. "Underclass, immoralists, rotten bastards, ass jacks, punks. Heroic couplet indeed." Takes a swig of his brewski. The question at hand is this. Can it be said that man chooses his destiny? For that is what is said. And we reward and punish men as if it were true. Can it be said? Or does destiny herself suspend him like the piñata? Yes, like the piñata, only to be jerked about and destroyed blindly, his remains squabbled over by children. I was a soldier. When they told me to march, I did march. When they told me to run, so did I run. And they did tell me to kill. And certainly without such commands, Mr. Jones would never have killed that Korean soldier, that boy, of his own accord. That is, I would not have killed that boy if it were up to me alone. Certainly that's true. I never even met him. Thus, we have satisfactorily concluded that in the final accounting, Mr. Jones is not to be judged harshly for his role in the chain of events which led to the already inevitable death of a young Korean soldier. Takes another swig of his brewski. Inevitable death. Two words that should have been paired more often. The world is fair. Each shall receive exactly one inevitable death. And if you can't see in the back, sort of, it's still Mr. Jones talking, but things are coming alive in his imagination, and different parts of the city are now talking to him. "Mr. Jones, the judgment is coming. Put down that can and stand before the Lord. You believe in the Lord, don't you, Mr. Jones? The Lord has said that a man is what he does, Mr. Jones, and you have killed. What's more, you have consumed alcohol to a staggering degree your whole life, even at the expense of the only woman you've ever loved. Why, you've even been known to talk to yourself. What's more, your track record in church has been spotty, to say the least, until a few months ago. Be advised, the Lord casts a harsh eye on recent converts, Mr. Jones." Reaches in for another brewski, pops it open, takes a swig. "Despite the apparent ridiculousness of the current situation, I shall nonetheless address these last claims, which, I will add in passing, I thought were quite well presented. Permit me to say, first, in my own defense, that I have tried to live as a decent man, and although I have enjoyed a beer from time to time, to say the least, I have met my fellow humans with mostly good cheer and kind words. As to my attendance in church, what you say is true. I further admit I am not always sure I believe in you, Lord, for as you know, it's not your face I see when I pray. No, I have been in church asking God for forgiveness, but I desire to ask that boy, and the boy I was then. It's their faces I see. Let them be alongside him on my judgment day. And cruel, how cruel, for you to mention my sweet Maria, who left me for that dog Ruiz." Takes a sip. "Who, it now occurs to me, I may have seen in hushed conversation with the infamous Mr. Salkenpop. Or is that the beer talking?" Takes another swig. And then this is Mr. Jones. Next poem. "All expanding life is like the trees, though I've had a few of these. Now to me it seems I've lived before, once with sweet Maria, mine no more. When I was gone overseas, Maria's letters I'd receive. When I was away and at the war, she declared the love was to the core. Time has passed, Maria sees, pleads Maria, would I please stop to drink or see her out the door? I got drunk and lay upon the floor. Like the trees, Maria leaves, she I never could appease. Still I seem forever to implore, begging 3 more chances, maybe 4. Chances gone like memories, capsized on Maria seas, flotsam, jetsam, washed up by the score, wreck of love on my Maria shore. Hope she hears it in the breeze or in the buzzing of the bees and sees me on my knees again once more, living life alone among the poor. But Maria loves Ruiz. She prefers his arms to these. And though I had enjoyed the booze before, now I seem to seek it even more. Though I've had a lot of ease, memories forever tease, and life to me it seems a drunken bore. Joy of juice defeats who I adore. So that's a taste of Mr. Jones. Eventually we meet the kids that he interacted with before. We follow one of them home, and at the end of the story, I think we all discover the meaning of life. One of my favorite musical performers is a blues artist named John Lee Hooker, who has also passed away. And I am not going to try to imitate John Lee Hooker's voice. For those who don't know, his voice is about as low as voices get. It's kind of like in the Lou Rawls, Barry White register. I mean, my voice is maybe somewhat low, but I'm not going to do an impression. But I illustrated one of his songs that I just thought was a story that was brilliantly told in a very few words. I'll also say that my wife and I were recently kicked out of our apartment. And we had to move, not because we weren't paying rent or anything like that, but actually our landlord needed to move into our place. And so this just seems appropriate, also for the economic times that we're in. So we're going to try this. It's going to be almost like a cartoon with crude animation. I'm going to try to do John Lee Hooker's cadence, which is kind of slow and methodical. So it's going to be like animation, but instead of 24 frames per second, it's going to be like, a frame every 4 or 5 seconds. So this is called House Rent Boogie, and lyrics by John Lee Hooker, illustrations by me. Tell you a story about the house rent boogie. I stayed with an old woman once for 5 long years. I had a good job. I mean a show enough good job. I worked every day for 5 long years. Yeah. I come home on Friday. She always smiling. She was lovey-dovey. And so nice in every way. She would smile and be so lovey-dovey. I had a good job then. Yeah. I come home one Friday. I tells old landlady I had lost my job. She say, what? I done lost my job. Yeah, she said. Then I kind of noticed she acted a little funny. She never would smile too much. When I come home during the daytime, I had lost my job. She say, you trying to find a job? I say, yeah, I just can't find no job. Uh-huh. Yeah. The house rent blues. She say, you ain't trying to find no job. I say, oh yeah, I've been walking all day. I just can't find no job. She said she passed the other day. Saw me standing on the corner, leaning against the post. I say, yeah, I was tired. I've been walking all day. I just can't find no job. I goes on across the street, try to get this rent together. A friend of mine he say, hey, Johnny, come on in. I say, hey, man. I'm out dope. He say, what? I say, I'm out dope. Yeah, he say. I say, give me a place to stay tonight. He say, let me go upstairs, check with my wife. He come back down the stairs, say, hey, Johnny. My wife, she acted a little funny. I say, yeah? I say, everybody funny. I say, you funny too. I goes back across the street. I tells the old landlady, I says, yes, I'm gonna get the rent together. She say, yeah? I say, oh yeah, I'm gonna get it. She say, you gonna pay me the back rent? I say, oh yeah, I'm gonna pay you all of it. Talking about the back rent. Talking about the back rent. And I ease on out the door. And I got on away from the house with my clothes. Talking about some back rent. you ain't getting nothing. She lucky she getting any front rent. He's a self-taught musician, so he doesn't write down lyrics. His verses never rhyme. If you were to hear him play the House Rent Boogie another time, it would be different. I mean, he'd tell the same story, but in a different way. And I really think there's a kind of genius to that storytelling. He's making that up extemporaneously as it goes. So that's the House Rent Boogie. I've got one more short one. We're going to finish on another Dennis Trudell note here. This is called The Duke of Paducah. I call him the Duke. The Duke of Paducah. He's out tonight in one of these bars. I ain't never beheld him, but I might, one of these broken nights. I keep looking, he keep doing it all. See, Stone Duke of P looks just like me, just what you see. He's my size and weight and race, got this face. You see any woman here beside? Do not. Duke got her. Drinking my scotch, having all my fun. Folks will say, saw you kicking the ass out of another Friday night. I say, you saw me, saw puke. Saw ass kick, you saw the Duke.